Yeah, man. So coming back from the break, we're going to transition a little bit. Still your time at 275, but we're going to talk about kind of a larger than life figure, especially during those times. I don't hear him spoke about as much. But Pat Tillman, can you explain to the audience, kind of like who Pat Tillman was, and then maybe kind of how him and Kevin ended up in the regiment?
So I want to preface this by saying not only did I serve along Tillman, I was technically in his first fire team. I was friends with him. His brother and I were on a machine gun team together for a long time. And in case you don't know, when you're on a machine gun team together, it means you're within arm's length proximity of your partner for all day long, every day. So his brother and I, same age, got along great since day one, and his brother and I have stayed in touch all these years. And it's very important to me that I say that me coming and talking about Pat publicly definitely comes with the blessing of his brother. Because if, I approached Kevin before this and was like, hey, man, I'm going to go on a podcast. I'm going to be talking about P. Like, are you cool with it? And, Kevin and I have a good relationship, and he knows how I felt about him, and he knows the content I'm going to talk about him. So this definitely comes with Kevin's blessing. And to me, that's very important that I say that on the record. And then afterwards, when this media hits social, I want Kevin to hear this little part right here. So shout out to Kevin. And look, man, we love your brother. So all good things.
So can you just kind of tell our listeners like a little bit about Pat Tillman who may not know him? Because I mean, we're getting older now.
So for those of you who may not know, anyone who's listening to this who has a soldiering background obviously knows what Pat Tillman was. But for those of you who don't know, Pat Tillman was a NFL All-Star. He was an NFL All-Pro safety for the Cardinals. And after 9/11 happened, he and his brother Kevin, who was a minor league baseball player, also a professional athlete, decided to quit what they were doing with sports and join the Ranger Regiment and get into the fight.
And at that time in our country, that was unheard of.
Unheard of. I mean, it's never been happened since. Yeah. The last athletes that went, he's the only athlete in American history he's the only professional athlete in American history to volunteer to go to war. We've had lots of professional athletes serve in war before him in the Korean, Vietnam, and World War II, but they were drafted. Pat Tillman is the first professional athlete in the Big Four and the last to voluntarily give up his $1 million
contracts.
Yeah, he was a millionaire to come and serve in the Ranger Regiment. And I had the great fortune to serve in his platoon and, for a very short period of time in his team.
Pat was in Ranger School during your first deployment. When did you first meet him?
Well, I met him before that, right? I met him, the first time I met him was on my first day in regiment. And, the lore of Pat Tillman didn't exist then. Mm-hmm. He was just the guy who came from the NFL, right? So they were like, hey, that guy Tillman's going to be upstairs. Don't talk. This was the brief I got. Hey, that guy Tillman is in your platoon. Don't talk to him about football. All right, cool, whatever. And I went upstairs, and I can remember the first time seeing him. Go upstairs. He's with Jason Parsons, and him and Jason Parsons were arguing about something. Parsons and I had been in basic training together, so I knew Parsons a little bit. By the time I got there, Parsons was a specialist with his Ranger tab, so he was a junior NCO. Because in the Ranger Regiment, if you have your tab, you're basically a junior NCO. And him and Parsons were arguing about something. I kind of came up and was like, oh, that's that Tillman guy. That dude's big. He's a big dude. He wasn't super tall. I want to say maybe he was 5'10", 5'11", but he had huge neck, hands. He was just brolic as shit. Like, he was just more... it wasn't just muscles, like his hands were bigger, his neck was bigger, his head was bigger. He was just I think it's very important that people out there understand that, I don't care how hard you work out or how disciplined you are or how stoic you are or what supplements you take or what tea you're on. You only get to the NFL or the NBA or the MLB or the NHL if you're a genetic lottery winner. Those dudes, I don't care how much you lift. I don't care how much you're big three lift is. I don't care how fast you run. Those dudes are made of different stuff than you are. And being around Pat was my first time being around someone like that. So I was very fortunate enough to not only become friends with him, but I got to see him do I got to see him do a lot of weird shit over time that like made me realize like the disparity between like a high level professional athlete and a regular person.
How long had he been in the regiment before you got there?
Couple months. He was a new guy. I was a new guy. He was a new guy. I was a slightly less new guy. I'm sorry. I was a new guy. He was a slightly less new guy.
Yeah, what was your first impressions of Pat Tillman, the person, not the NFL player?
He was cool. I got along great with him. His brother was a little more reserved. Pat was like a outspoken, hyper confident big dude. He was a hyper confident alpha male in the locker room jock world of Ranger Regiment. But the thing is, he came from the ultimate locker room jock world of the NFL. And in the NFL, he was one of the dogs. So he's super confident, really, really friendly, but he had a super blunt, direct way of talking that was, I think, could be a little off-putting to people at first, but I was impressed by how intelligent he was. He's super, super, super intelligent.
I remember you said that Pat was, really selective about how he, who he was boys with. What did he look for in people, you think?
I know, well, for one, he liked people that were well-read. And going back, that seems to be a theme in my life. Like I was extremely well-read. I remember very early on, we had a conversation about Kafka, about Franz Kafka and Metamorphosis. And he was very impressed that I had read Kafka. But more than anything, I think Pat wanted people that you could have an intelligent conversation with. He didn't give a shit like how badass you were or what your attitude was or any of this other kind of stuff. Like if you think about it, he was the ultimate alpha male badass with all the money and all this other kind of stuff. He didn't care about that stuff. He wanted people that he could have an intelligent human conversation with. And to be honest with you, and like Asher, you know this, and a lot of people out there know that, a lot of guys in the military don't have that sort of social skill. It's definitely more prevalent in regiment because you got a lot of hyper confident, fit guys, but like he just wanted to find somebody that could challenge him intellectually. He was very interested in he was always interested in what your thoughts were on something. He's a super, super, super intelligent guy.
Kevin Tillman became your machine gun partner. How did that relationship develop?
From the moment Kevin and I met each other, we got along. Kevin and I are the same age, and we actually have very, very similar personalities. We fell out of touch for a long time after Pat's death. And then we caught up a long time ago and then fell out of touch again. Kind of rekindled our friendship recently. And it's kind of funny, like Kevin and I have very, very, very similar personalities, very similar senses of humor. And we just got along fantastically well. Kevin had been a minor league baseball player. So he was a professional athlete as well. I believe Kevin went to Stanford, super well educated. And just like his brother, really cared about the character of someone's content, the content of someone's character. And I think that's what separated them from most Rangers. And again, like Kevin and I we just got along like peanut butter and jelly, man, from the minute we met each other.
Because you and Kevin were tight, Pat let you kind of into that inner circle. How did that feel?
There was no like feeling about it, but Pat was definitely kind of picky about who he fucked with. Who he associated with. He was very outspoken on who he thought was intelligent, who he thought was, and him and Kevin are extremely close. We're extremely close. And because it's not just that I was Kevin's AG, his assistant gunner, but it's the fact that Kevin and I got along so well is the reason I think Pat was like, all right, you're cool. You know what I mean? Like he was pretty picky about who he was cool with. And I was just very fortunate enough to be cool. Because you know why? Because I'm cool, right?
Yeah. That's why I brought you on this podcast. I'm just kidding. You called Pat, I know when we were prepping, one of the things that really stuck is you called Pat a genetic mutant, not made of the same stuff as regular humans. 100%. Can you give me give us a couple examples?
So I've seen him do things that are not normal. if you're out there and you're from a soft unit and you're listening to this, you know that about every company of every 150 so-ish guys has a guy that's like uniquely non-humanly talented, right? He runs faster, he jumps higher, whatever. And a lot of those guys aggregate into Ranger Regiment. So you get the most athletic, the biggest guys, the strongest guys, the guys that can run the farthest. And then every now and then, some guy comes along who's a mutant, like who's just his physical ability to do things is a borderline incomprehensible. And I had never, and for a lot of you out there listening, you like, no offense, you might have not ever met someone like this in your life, unless maybe you were around high level Division I athletics or professional sports. But like, I certainly had never been around someone who was like a human mutant, right? Until I was around Pat. And then it kind of took me a while to like realize like, oh shit, this dude is not like other dudes. Like, I mean, think of all the people that want to be in the NFL, right? If it came down to just who worked out the most, there'd be a lot of different guys in the NFL. But like, he was born with a physical tool set that's kind of hard to describe. The first time, and this stuck in my memory, the first time I saw it, there's a fond memory I have of him. I was on CQ. I was on duty. If you're from the Marines or the Navy, you call it duty. The Army, we call it CQ. So I'm on CQ. I'm in my duty uniform.
Basically, for those of you who don't know what CQ is, you're basically, every company has a CQ. There's a battalion CQ. It's basically called charge of quarters. You're on duty for like 24 hours. You gotta man the phone. Anybody that walks into the company. So it's like, it's a 24-hour.
Right. And you're in your duty uniform and you're looking right and you're sitting at a little desk and you're manning the phone and you're basically the face of the business for that 24 hours. So I'm on CQ. And at that time, the barracks were set up in a quad formation. So we had 4 barracks with a lawn in the middle, sort of like a collegiate dorms with a quad in the middle. And the guys are out in the quad and they're playing Frisbee. And their Frisbee and Ranger Regiment basically turns into like a big fight. Like whoever catches the Frisbee gets beat up. But like all the guys are out there. And Rangers, we wear different PT outfits, right? We wear super tight T-shirts and super short booty shorts, and we wear all black, right? Our PT uniforms like look cool. I'm on duty. I'm standing out front. I'm watching the guys play Frisbee, and one of the guys throws the Frisbee up in the air. And you know how you'll see a Frisbee and it'll go way up in the air, and then it'll hang in the air, and then it'll kind of come back down like this. This guy throws the Frisbee up. Frisbee goes up, hangs up in the air, starts to float back down. And there's got to be 20 guys out there playing. And they're all waiting for it. And on cue, everybody jumps to get the Frisbee. So there must have been 8 to 10 arms that go up for this Frisbee, right? And I look and I see 8 to 10 arms like this. Boom, 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 boom. All these arms with tattoos and black shirts. And then one arm, I swear to God, is like this much higher, right? And Pat was jacked as shit. You could see this big, massive, muscly arm. He's like, jumps up, and I can't kind of show it because I'm in the chair, but he like did a little half moon step and he just jumped up and picked it out of the air like it was nothing. Like he just kind of did this smooth little like half step, turned around, jumped, and backhanded it out of the air and came down like it was nothing. And then he just elbowed Schumann right in the face. Kaboom! Split his shit open. And I remember watching that and thinking to myself, I could never do that. I could practice that little move for 6 months and not be able to do it. And he just did it like off the top of his head, like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And it was funny. Like I was right before I came down here, I was talking to Kevin and I told him I was going to tell that story and he was laughing. And Kevin said that he used to call him the flea when they were kids because he could jump so high. He could just whoop like he was a bug. He could just jump. And so that was the first time I saw it, right? I was like, all right, this dude that was weird. Like, and then I remember another time he was getting in an argument with one of the guys, with one of the junior sergeants. And JP is like screaming at Till. Till's got his feet up on a chair and he's doing push-ups. And they're having a full-on argument, like arguing about some shit. And Tillman has his feet up on the chair and he's doing decline push-ups. And he must have done damn near 200 push-ups, just cranking them out like high speed, bam, 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 not just bam, 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 bam. And he's full on yelling at Jay. And they're having a real argument, like a lover's quarrel, right? They're really going at it. And he didn't break cadence in those push-ups. It was just like boop, 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 boop. For the whole thing, he must have done 200 of them. And when he was done, he just got up and he fixed his shirt and he walked out like it was nothing. And I was like how did he do that? And there was another time we were out at Regensburg. So back then we used to have we had like a fake mock-up city out in the wilds of JBLM that only the Rangers were allowed to use. And we were allowed to like shoot simunitions and blanks there and like throw pyro and blow shit up. It was like our little training area. And it was a snowy, wet, shitty, rainy day. There was huge mud puddles all over the place. And Till had just come back from Ranger school, and Godick, shout outs to 2-5. He goes up to Till and he's like, hey man, no pressure, but we're going to have you run a team and we're going to have you assault across the street and take out this church. But hey, remember, no pressure, right? Which we both know means
all the pressure.
right.
Yeah.
Don't f this up, right?
Yeah.
So we're on the second floor of this big building, and across the street there's a mock-up church with pews in it. And Godick's like, here's the deal. We're going to set up a support by fire upstairs. We're going to shoot up the church. And when you're ready, you're going to throw the shift. You guys are run across the street and you're going to take down the church. And hey, remember, no pressure. Right? So Tillman, God love him, is always up to here all the time. And now after hearing Godick say no pressure to him 5 times, he's up to here, right? So the guys are on the second floor in the big bay window, and the support by fire is going. And for those of you who don't know what support by fire is, it means all the machine guns are rocking and rolling. Boom, 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 boom. So there's like 3 big machine guns and 3 small machine guns rocking and rolling inside of this building. You can imagine how loud this is, right? It sounds awesome, right? Do, all this gunfire going off. And we're in the door, and it's me, Danny, and Brian Coons. And Tillman's at the door, and he's wound up to 100. He's all ready. He's like, you guys ready? You guys ready? And we're like, yeah. He's like, all right, follow me, right? And he throws the shift. He throws the signal out into the road for the support by fire to lift. And the doorway we were in was probably about as high as this. It was probably about as high as this countertop here. And it was supposed to have stairs built up to it, but the engineers hadn't gotten around to building stairs up to it. So it's a suspended doorway in the air, and in front of the doorway, there was probably a good 8 to 10 foot huge iced over mud puddle of like knee to ankle deep mud, right? And we're in full kit, helmet, kit, weapon, everything. And for those of you who don't know, full kit can be anywhere from 25 to 40 pounds. So we got a considerable amount of gear on, and your rifle. Till throws the shift. He's like, come on, let's go. And I can still see it because I was behind him. He just broad jumped, one jump. Just like Michael Jordan from the free throw line, just hung in the air. Jumped across this mud puddle, landed in one stride, and then boom, rocketed off to the other side of the road. And he cleared the road in like 2 seconds. Like, he was gone. And he did this probably at the skill level of, I don't know, an NFL all-pro athlete, right? Yeah. And then Danny takes one step out of this doorway and boom, ass over tea kettle, head first in the puddle. Brian trips over him. I trip over Brian. Now all 3 of us are in this mud puddle, helmets off, barrels in the muck, like just looking like the Keystone Cops, like a total tragedy, right? Ridiculous. Till is across the street and he's looking at us. He's like, come on. Come on. Come on. He's like getting all wound up. Come on. We're like, oh, I can barely get out of the mud, right? And he goes, man. And he goes in the church. He goes in church by himself. Big mistake. And in the church, they've got an OP4 in there. And it was a guy laying down under one of the pews. And an OC, an observer controller, is in the church. So he goes in, and the observer controller's like, Tillman, you're by yourself. Now you're a casualty. Lay down, you're dead, right? So we finally get out of the mud. We come limping across the road, probably a good minute later. we get the guy in the church. The OC is like, we're covered in mud. And the OC is like, all right, you guys, Tillman's a casualty, take care of the casualty, assess the casualty, reconsolidate his gear, and then move on. And Till, God bless him, he's laying there like this as a casualty, and just a stream of profanity is coming out of his mouth. He's like, I haven't told you guys, I've blah, 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 Danny, and you left me. And like, he's really going off, right? And Danny, to his credit, kneels over me. He's like, yo, Till, shut up, dude. You're dead, right? And we start laughing, and the OC starts laughing. He's like, he's right, Tillman. Like, you're dead, right? And we all kind of giggle like that. And Tillman turns purple, right? He's like, yeah. And you could like see the steam coming out of his ears. It looked like the Warner Brothers. And like him and Danny are whispering, and like, we package him up and move on. And like, that was one of a million incidences that I had with him. And I have one story that I had with just him and I that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'll tell that when we get a minute.
Yeah. That's the story when you guys were on CQ. I think it's appropriate, man.
When it was raining.
Yeah.
You want me to tell it?
Yeah. It's great. It was a great story.
Yeah.
You told me in the prep, and it was.
I made sure that Kevin knows about this, and Kevin was very happy to hear this story because he was like, man, that was so him. I was very fortunate enough to have an incident with just him and I that I hold very near and dear to my heart, where I just got to see him in his most natural human environment. Tillman and I got along very, very well. And for some reason we lifted together, which is kind of a joke because like I was lifting like 3 pounds and he was lifting 900. You know what I mean? Like I used to joke that it was like more work for me to like move his weights around than the actual workout. But he was brolic as he had the biggest quads you've ever seen, the biggest neck you've ever seen. He was jacked beyond belief. One night we're on CQ. We're on CQ and it's the middle of the night, and I think it's a 4-day weekend, and the barracks are a ghost town. No one's around. It's totally, totally empty. It might have even been block leave. I don't remember, but we're in the barracks and it's completely, completely empty in the barracks. It's just me and T. It's just me and Tilly. And it's pouring down rain. 275 Seattle area. It is like really pouring down rain outside. And I remember very clearly, Kosteka will probably remember this. For some reason, there was a gigantic Ralph Lauren polo golf umbrella at the CQ desk. And that kind of becomes a player in the story, right? So I'm sitting at the CQ desk, I'm watching TV or whatever. And Tillman comes trotting down the stairs. And he's in his PTs. He's like, hey, man, check it out. And he had an old school analog coach's watch, like a 60 minutes timer. Tick, 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 tick. You click it. I don't know where he got this thing, but he's pretty proud of it, right? And he's like a total jock. Of course he would have one of these things, right? He's like, check this out. And he's like showing it to me, and it's like he's showing me how to work it. He's like, hey, man, I need you to come outside of the back 40 with me. So we go out back, and I'm under the eave, and I got this massive polo umbrella. Like it's a golf umbrella that's big enough for like 2 guys to stand under, right? So I'm standing there, and I'm in my starches. I'm in my nice duty uniform, and he's in PTs. Standing there with the umbrella, and he's showing me how this watch works. And there's no cars in the parking lot. Street lights are on, and it is pouring huge fat drops of water. It's pouring, it's cold out. And he's pointing across the parking lot. He's like, hey, check it out. He's like, he had walked off like the distances between the parking lines, and he knew exactly how far like 40 or 100 yards was or something like that. He goes, hey, man, I'm going to go down and line up at one of the lines. And when you're ready, you say go and hit the timer, and then I'll run. And then when I run past you on this line, you hit the timer and you time me. I'm like, all right, cool. Weird, but whatever. Guys do all manner of weird shit in regiment, like whatever. So he walks down. He's like, you ready? I'm like, yeah, Till, I'm ready. He's like, all right, I'm getting ready, right? And he gets in a 3-point stance. He's like, when you're ready, say go. So I'm like, all right, go. And I go. And he takes off max effort, like everything he has. Everything he has. Professional NFL athlete, quads, the muscles. He's just hauling ass. And he goes by on time. He comes over to me. He's like, this guy's hands on his hips. He's like, what was my time? I was like, I don't know. It was whatever time. He's like, all right, it's not good. I got to do it again. So he goes back down. I can see this like so clearly in my memory. He's like, are you ready? Like, yeah, Till. He's like, all right, let me know. It's like, all right, go. Same thing. Max effort. Comes by, click. Walks up to me. He's like, what's my time, bro? And I tell him, and like he gets pissy with me. He's like, are you sure? Are you sure that's the time? Because I know my body, dude, and I'm not that, slow, blah, blah, blah. And we get into it like a little bit, like friendly, like boys. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, this isn't the combine, dude. We're not at the NFL combine. We're in the back 40. It's pouring down rain. It's Sunday night. What are you doing, dude? You know what I mean? I'm not an NFL coach. Like, you're just some dude running around in this, and he's soaked by this point. He's like, all right, you're right. I know, man. So he goes back, and I swear to God, he must have done this 15 times. Max effort every time, and he is smoked by the end of it, right? Like, I don't care who you are. If you run 15 all out, everything you got, 40 to 100-yard sprints, you're going to be tired afterwards, right? If I comes back, he's like, all right, man, take the desk. So I go and I take the desk, and he disappears. He just vanishes. I'm sitting on the desk, and like a bunch of time goes by. I'm like, dude, it's like 3 a.m. Did this dude like bail on me? Like, what happened?
Did you guys at CQ together?
Yeah. I'm like, dude, because CQ lasts from 06 to 06. And it's 3 a.m. I'm like,
that's the hardest part in the morning, dude.
Dude, the last 3 hours, right? That's the worst part of CQ. Anybody vets out here have pulled CQ, that last 3 hours is awful. You're like trying to stay awake. And I'm starting to get pissed off. I'm like, this guy is going to f me over. This guy's going to F me over, and I'm going to pull the rest of the CQ by myself. He's gone for a long time. And then he comes down the stairs again, and he's in a perfect, newly starched uniform, looking great, right? He comes in, he's like, hey, man. He's like, really appreciate you doing that early. He's like, I got the desk for the rest of the night. Don't worry about it. It was like a total, like he hooked it up, right? And like, I was just thinking like, that's like such a bro moment. You know what I mean? And among many other little memories that I have of him, like, we got along great. I've been to Christmas parties with him, know his wife, know his brother. Like, I got along great with him, but like, I was thinking like, I've worked out with him, been to the gym with him, like I got to have like a real bro moment with him. You know what I mean? Like,
you mentioned like Pat Tillman was an extremely like intelligent and intellectual person. He had a really good knowledge of the world. How did his intellect intimidate other Rangers, especially like leadership?
Yeah, you said it exactly right like that. He didn't like give a shit about your rank, which caused a lot of problems. He didn't give a what rank you were. He only cared what you were like, because he came from a world of adults. He already came from a world of adults and high performers. So to him, the concept of rank, like, yeah, it made sense, and he acknowledged rank when he had to, but in the long term, he didn't give a shit what your rank was. And if he thought you were a dumbass, he would tell you. You know what I mean? He paid a lot of price for it, and he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because a lot of guys think they're alphas until a real alpha male shows up. Like a real alpha male shows up. And if you're if you're low key insecure or a punk, it like bothers people. It's sort of like if you've been riding a scooter your entire life, and then a Ducati pulls up next to you, you're like, oh shit. I've been on a moped, and that's like a different type of thing. You know what I mean? And a lot of guys couldn't handle it. And like politically, he had a lot of problems. Not like you conspiracy theory people out there. We didn't kill him. There was no plot. There was no like, oh, he's going to go into politics. There was none of that. He was a fully fledged member of our platoon family, and we loved him. We loved that dude. We all loved him. And he died in a very terrible accident. And the way that he died could have happened to anybody. It was an accident. And like, there was no like, you know, all this stuff. Like, if you believe any of the conspiracy theories about Tillman, then you're someone who's very easily manipulated by the lowest level of shock journalism media. Like, he mentioned in a couple letters to his wives that the war was illegal, which it was. You know what I mean? It was a crazy war that we fought. But like, he had no designs to be a politician. He had no designs to, like, you know, he wasn't killed by the CIA or anything like that. He was our dear friend, and we loved him, and he died in a terrible accident. It's very sad.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a sec. This episode is brought to you by TitansArms.com, your trusted source for research-grade SARMs. These third-party tested compounds are formulated to support research into tissue selective activity, especially in muscle and bone. Titan offers free nationwide shipping, a wide selection in both capsules and droppers, and oversized 90 capsule and 90 ml bottles. Everything is compounded in the USA, raising the bar for quality and reliability. From the lab to your door, Titan delivers transparent data and premium service. That's TitansArms.com, forged by research, not opinions. You had a funny story about his car, bro. You got to tell it.
Oh my God.
I know, like, we're going to talk some heavy topics about him, but like this story, I laughed.
Do you want me to say the F word?
Yeah,
too?
I don't care, bro.
All right. Is that going to get you demonetized?
I will just beep it out for YouTube, but it'll play on Spotify.
Okay, I think you should beep it out.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm going to use trigger warning. I'm going to use a word that'll probably offend some of the softer of you people, right? I want to say it was Brian Barbini who said it too, by the way. It's either Brian King or Brian Barbini, if those dudes are still alive and they're listening to this podcast. So, Ranger parking lots are full of like shitty pickup trucks and race cars and motorcycles and shit, dirt bikes. Just like any Army barracks parking lots. For those of you who served in the military, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who have not served in the military, it's a bunch of young dudes who suddenly have money, and most of them are country or hood, and they go out and they buy some obnoxious, ridiculous car that they can't afford. So if you look in a parking lot of any unit, especially an infantry unit, you're going to find big ass pickup trucks, broke Jeeps, Subaru WRXs, like scooped out Honda Civics and street bikes, right? Just the most obnoxious collection of vehicles that young men in America can have, right?
It's a great depiction.
All right. So one of the guys in the platoon, he got a brand new vehicle. I don't remember what it was. I think it might have been JP with that, or I think it might have been Ray with that Bronco too. Anyway, one of the guys in the platoon gets a new vehicle, and it's a lifted truck. It's some obnoxious, right? And at the time, we didn't have a cough. At the time, we're in the platoon room, we're in the platoon AO, which is on the second floor. So our second floor looks out above and down into the parking lot. The parking lot is between ACO and CCO. And I'm just saying this for historical reference. If you're from 275 and you were in ACO on the second platoon wing, you look down on the parking lot, and the parking lot was between ACO and CCO. So you guys know. Anyway, one of the guys, we're on second floor, and we're looking in the parking lot, and he's bragging about his new whip. And his new whip is some piece of shit lifted truck, right? And he's bragging about his car. And Tillman, who is older and educated, and let's not lie, he's a millionaire, right? He never flaunted his wealth ever. Never, ever flaunted his wealth ever. But it's well known he's got money because he played in the NFL, right? He's like, you know, we're talking about the car or the guy's truck, and Tillman comes over and he's like, hey, he's like, I'm going to buy a car here in a couple days, and I'm going to show you guys what a real man drives, right? And we're like, yeah, what are you going to get? He's like, don't worry about it. It's a surprise. I'm going to show you guys. You guys out here with your shit trucks. Look at these stupid trucks. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to show you what a classy real man drives. You're going to find out. I'm going to teach you something. And we're all like, all right, it's probably going to be something badass, right? Because he's got some money. All right. So up to that point, him and Kevin, they carpooled to work every day because Pat had a little house off post, and him and Pat and his wife Marie and Kevin all lived there together. And Kevin had a white Jetta GLI. It's funny, I was just talking to Kevin about this. I was like, you remember that Jetta? And Kevin was very proud of that Jetta. I always assumed up until recently that Pat bought it for him, but no. Kevin bought a Jetta GLI when he was in California. He drove it up to 275, and that was just their little family car. So every day, the Tillman brothers would ride into work in Kevin's white Jetta. So Tillman's very, very proud. He's like, watch, I'm going to get a real car. I'm going to show you what a real man drives, right? Knowing full well that he's highly educated, he's got money, and he's by far the most alpha human being who's ever lived, right? I'm assuming like he's going to come in some super truck, right? A couple days, can't believe I'm telling this to the public. Brian Barbini, if you're listening, I'm pretty sure it was you that said this. A couple days later, he comes into work, and we're in the second floor, and we're looking in the parking lot, and this car pulls in, and it's a white Volvo station wagon with a cream leather interior. And we're like, whose car is that, dude? Whose mom's whip is that? And the door opens and Kevin gets out, and I can remember look on his face. He goes like this, and he walks into the barracks, right? And Tilly gets out of the car and he does this. He's like, shuts the door, right? Like proud dad, looking like Ned Flanders, right? All right. And we're like, what the is that what Tillman got? Did he get a station wagon or a Volvo station wagon? Are you kidding me? And he comes up the stairs. We hear him come up the stairs, and he comes in the room and he's beaming. He's got a big smile on his face, hands on his hips. And Barbini goes, yo, Pat got a car. And the room just goes crazy laughing, right? Yo, Pat got a car, right? And Tillman hits the roof. He's like, what? Freaks he's like, that's a great car. He's like, don't talk shit about my car. He's like, you idiots wouldn't know a great car. He's like, you don't have any class. He's like, that is a great car. And he's like, yo, I didn't know you were a lesbian, bro. Like, what kind of car is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Just the locker room, bro.
Just roasting him. Got roasted to death about this car. And Pat freaked out. Like, really was not having that shit. He wasn't laughing, like mad at you guys, and stormed out, right?
What'd Kevin say?
Kevin, I don't remember. Kevin, bringing this up to Kevin years later, he thinks it's hilarious because we roasted Pat about this car mercilessly roasted him about this car for a long time afterwards. And Kevin, now looking back on it, I just talked to him before this podcast, and Kevin was laughing. He's like, he loved that car, right? Yeah. So shout outs to Pat Tillman and the Volvo. Come on, man. What were you thinking?
Yeah.
Love that guy, but what were you thinking bringing a Volvo station wagon into a Ranger Regiment parking lot, dude?
Pat Tillman was kind of disgusted by like low effort people.
Yeah.
Pat was also disgusted by morons. How did you guys bond over that?
I don't know if we bonded over it, but like, I just know that my energy was very compatible with like the kind of people that he liked. I was a high energy, intelligent guy who had some fairly well-formed opinions about the world. I had lived a little bit of life before I came into regiment. I think the guys that he didn't like, it's not the junior guys who like, if you were like 19 and you were from the country and you were a bumpkin and you didn't know anything about life, but you had a good attitude, he was cool with you. I think the guys he didn't like were like the pretentious dudes that thought they knew everything. I think he had a real problem. His problem wasn't with authority. It was with like know-it-alls. And there's a lot of those in the Army. And I just think he was, to his credit, the only thing he cared about was the character of somebody and whether you could hold an intelligent conversation and challenge him a little bit.
Pat was constantly challenging people. What are you reading? How do you feel about that? Do you have any cool examples that you can remember from stuff like that?
Did I mention the Kafka thing already?
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, he actually had like, I don't want to say a book club, but I remember very clearly he had a list of books he was reading. And he was a big fan of Chomsky, and I had read all the Chomsky Trilateral Commission stuff. And I remember him and me and this guy named Wilson, who also ended up getting RFS, like me and him and Wilson having a real serious conversation about Chomsky, the writings of Chomsky, because like we were all fans of Chomsky, but for different reasons. I just liked the patter and the pace and the way in which Chomsky writes. And I like the fact that he was taking big geopolitical ideas and kind of condensing them in ways that were easy for people to understand. So, yeah, he kind of maintained a list of books that he was reading, and he was very into geopolitical writing. I know that.
Did Pat ever give you any kind of advice that you remember?
No, No, our relationship wasn't like some mentor shit. I would definitely say it was like it was peer. It was a peer relationship, but I looked up to him just because he was a unit. You know what I mean? We were in a world of like hyper alpha dudes, and he was the most hyper alpha dude in that world. And he was cool. Like, you know, I've lifted a lot of weights with Pat, and it's kind of funny when you like lift weights with somebody who's, I don't know, literally twice as strong as you. It's kind of a little bit of a humbling experience. I can remember one time, this is a pretty good story about him. We went over to the BFC, the Battalion Fitness Center. It used to be called the BFC back then, which ironically, it was named after him after he was killed, and they smeared his name in the mud. But we went over to the BFC one night, and he's doing decline bench. And I remember this very clearly. He was like, "Hey, I need you to spot me." And I was laughing like, "All right, whatever, bro." He's got 120s in his hand, and he's just cranking out reps, decline bench, ding, 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 just nailing 120s. And I look down, and his arm is like up and disgusting. He was huge, like you're big, you got guns. He was significantly bigger than you. And he was sculpted, like, you know, ripped, but his arm was like terribly deformed, like the knot of his bicep was almost up in his deltoid. It was disgusting looking, and it was real gnarled, and like he was very vascular, but it looked gross. It looked like a moray eel was coiled up in his arm. And he's lifting. I'm like, "Yo, Tilly, what's wrong with your arm?" And now, mind you, while we have this conversation, the whole time he's knocking out reps. He's like, "Oh yeah, that happened in a game in college." He's like, "I tore the bicep off. I tore my bicep off trying to make an arm tackle." He's still lifting at this time, trying to make an arm tackle in the first quarter. And I just didn't tell anybody about it. And I wanted to finish the game. So I just finished the game. And then after the game was over, then I told the staff, like, "Hey, I think I hurt my arm." And they looked at my arm and they were like, "Oh shit, you tore your bicep off." He's like, and by the time I had surgery on it, it was like kind of too late to really fix this shit. He's like, "My arm works fine now. It just looks weird." And this whole time he's like yakking out 120s like it's nothing. And at the time I was like, "Ugh, that's gross." But now looking back on it, I'm like, man, that's like that's like him in a synopsis. You know what I mean? That's like such a mark of like a different human that won't quit and like wants excellence. He doesn't give a tearing my arm. My arm is important. Winning this game is important. You know what I mean? Like he really was sacrificing himself for what he believed in.